Hi, thanks for clicking on this video. I'm Nathan and this is my little YouTube account, and I just wanted to talk about the hospitals I've been in, not the actual stay itself, but the actual building. You know, like how it was structured, and I'll do my best to describe how the building layout was set out in different units, from the acute unit to the low secure ward, and like just how the buildings were different and what you could do in the buildings and what facilities they had and what facilities they used to have and either don't have now or are more difficult to get hold of and do. How the rules have changed over the past like 15-20 years. And I'll start with the acute unit. Usually PQ, they used to always say it stands for like peace and quiet. But while I was in there, my CPN said to me that there was actually a building or a place actually worse than this. Not worse, but more secure, where it's like a prison and the NHS doesn't really talk about it. And a majority of people there are wearing like spit guards and stuff and chained up, and they have to like walk in certain places and they're not allowed to do anything really or get hold of anything. He said it's for the worst of the worst, and the acute unit, even though it's there's still pretty violent people in it, and it has to be like managed, you know, like with segregation and stuff, with the segregation rooms. But the acute unit, uh, when I first went into one, I'll just describe it to you. It was just like a general office at first. Like you'd walk in, it was like seats and chairs, like a general what you'd expect in a waiting room in a hospital or GP. And I waited there for a bit, and there was some doors to the left and doors to the right. And to the right there was a separate like interview room with its own segregation area, so people didn't have to be brought into the main unit. They could be separated and monitored without any fear of them interacting with anyone else. Obviously, if they're a danger to themselves or other people, they'll be put there before they're deemed calm enough to go into the ward, which feels like kind of like a reward. And the buildings are built with like safety in mind, and you can't really do much in the segregation room. It's the best way to describe it would be a cell. If you've ever been in a cell in a police station, it's pretty basic. The windows have this weird like protection on them, so you can't do no damage with it, but it feels like you're suffocating because they have these air ventilations at the top usually, like really high up, so you can't touch them. And it's usually the rooms are usually white, or like white with the speckled of like different colours. And like I said, the ceilings were high, and they had like a ventilation, like we got like grids in it and just vents dotted about the place and lights and stuff on the ceiling. But anything that was you could possibly take apart was out of reach for you. They'd usually provide you with these weird mattresses that were like blue, made out of plastic, and with like a protective duvet cover that you couldn't tear up or do anything bad with. And that's how you had to sleep. And the pillows were made of plastic, so it was like sleeping on a balloon. But it was for hygiene reasons, and I believe they could wash them, and they didn't have to get new ones all the time. They could send them off to get washed. So yeah, once you're finished if you go into that unit, that section of that section, uh, that's what you'll see. Well, that's basically what you'll see in that building. I'm not going to say the name of the building. So, and you once you finish at the reception area and you finished, if you needed to stay in there, you'll come out. I walk down a corridor with just general offices and stuff on the left and right hand side, tables, uh, like wall information and stuff, and it was like noise and like hustle and bustle and stuff of like office life and people talking and that. And then I walked to this door and it was like a really secure door. And we were the staff member we went through. She locked it like twice. And when I first walked in, it was like a hallway leading off to the left and right. Still, the rooms were all white. All the walls were white. And hallways to the left and right again. The first hallway was pretty unusual because it didn't have like any straight edges. It was all like curved. Or what would have normally been like a point on the wall was like a curve, so you couldn't probably bang your head against it. And that little area had its own door with another lock on it, but the staff usually left that unlocked, so you could go knock on the main office room, so you could get their attention at least. And that at the end of that hallway had a door, and there was stairs to left and right, and so I'm just trying to explain it because I've had a bit of a smoke. I shouldn't really get on mic and smoke, but it makes me feel a bit better. And I just wanted to talk about this and explain it just so I don't forget. One day, because you don't keep all your memories forever, you'll forget and you'll just forget stuff. So this is like my little memory backup, I guess. Yeah, so in that hallway there was like another segregation room, but that segregation room was a lot nicer. Had a normal bed in it, but the bed wasn't like pushed up against the wall. The bed's like slightly off the wall, so the staff can get behind you and hold your head down if they need to. But the most uncomfortable things to sleep on. You can't like sit up in bed and prop yourself up because they're just impossible to sleep on. The pillows always keep falling off at the back, you at the front where your head is, and it was made out of like wood and glued. The way it's screwed down, they were actually just glued to the floor. Because one of the other patients in there was pretty strong, and he ripped one of the beds out because he was like, oh, that's only glued, it's not screwed in, so I can rip that out. So he ended up ripping one of the beds apart. And yeah, so the beds are slightly off the wall, which is a bit unusual. It's kind of like putting your bed in the middle of the room and expecting to sleep on it. It's kind of unusual and it don't feel right. There's usually no plugs or nothing you can plug into the wall and charge up or anything. The light switches are all like curved and nowhere to unscrew them usually. The windows are, like I've said before, have like a mesh on them. And this is the same for most of the rooms in the acute unit. So once I describe one, I've described them all. Majority of them have a bathroom and shower room that you can go into, and I must admit the bathroom and shower room is lovely. It's like what you'd expect in a hotel. So I that is actually one of the nicest things about them. They have a really excellent bathroom and shower room in them usually, if it's functioning and hasn't broken. So yeah, just back to the hallway, just coming out from just as I first walked in, I said the staff unlocked the two doors and let me through. So I went through there, went down the hallway onto the right hand side, and came across another door, opened it up, and it was a bigger hallway. There was a main lounge area, like connected off it, and it was like a wall, but you kind of you wouldn't expect like windows, but it's like bulletproof glass. You couldn't break it, but it was like one big window going in all the separating rooms, like the dining room and the garden and the gym and that. It all had windows in it, so the staff could see through without having to use cameras, I guess. And that's something that can make you quite paranoid, because you just like, it just seems like a really weird setup. Yeah, so I walked in through the second lot of doors. I said there was a lounge there on the right, and that had a TV in it, and the TV was actually inside of a TV. It's like a TV in a box, and you need the staff to come and lock it, so you could like change the channel or put in a movie or something to watch. So it was like, just imagine a TV and then put a box around it. Imagine how terrible that sounds when it's playing stuff. It sounds absolutely awful. You can't hear like anything. I'm just gonna find something to put on, some more music in the background. Yeah, so you couldn't really hear anything. It had these metal grid things coming out the side, this metal grid, and that was where the sound came out of, and it just sounded echoey and really horrible. Most people had scratched all the... When I say it came in a box, that box had like a screen in front of a screen, like a protection, bit of more bulletproof protection glass in front of it, so you couldn't break it, but you could scratch into it, and people had scratched like crosses and squares and pentagrams into it and stuff. So while you're trying to like focus on the TV, your eyes keep focusing out on what they've drawn on the screen. Well, what they've drawn on the protective screen. Yeah, there's now in the gardens. You used to be able to smoke in them, but you can't smoke in them anymore. Which used to be a safe. You know, it was nice if you could, you know, if you needed a cig and you were first stressed out, and you could just chill out in the garden with a coffee and a cig in the morning. That was nice. But they usually don't give you any. There was nothing in the garden area that I was in. When I say garden area, I don't mean like there was a wall around it or there was like a fence or something. It was literally 2 stories high. The wall that surrounded the garden section. There were no plants in it, just concrete and fag ends and dirt and rubbish and food and that people had thrown about. No chairs or anything. It was awful. Like before, there used to be a little smoking hut with like tables and chairs and that was at least something. And they had some little like plant bushes and that in the garden, in like bits where they've left the soil alone, so that some plants could grow through. But people destroyed it and they stopped smoking, so they had to get rid of the smoking hut, and it just became this depressing like tombstone you were living in, or like coffin you was in. It was just, everything seemed like everything was around you, everything was closing in on you, and you just couldn't get out. I know I'm talking about describing my things, but I go off on a tangent like I always do. This video is going on for a bit longer than usual, but I think other than like at tea, they like when they're feeding, like when it's feeding time at the zoo. I just remember this one of the patients saying that, and it really stuck in my head. And they've got to watch you. They have that few staff member there watching you, and they've got to make sure that you're not going to do anything bad with the implements or stab somebody. So they have to like keep an eye on you while you're eating. And they've got to account for like everything, every single knife and fork they've got to account for. I know they've probably got to do that in a lot of like in kitchens and restaurants anywhere. So, but this is like so people don't take it into the room and use it as a weapon. Because you got to class it. You got to feel like it feels like it's in prison. You're in prison. The same rules still apply in that sense. You got to watch out for yourself, because people are unknowingly dangerous to you and themselves. They probably don't mean to be. They're probably really nice. Usually when they're not unwell. Yeah, there was there's a few other things that I said I was gonna talk about, but I'm gonna leave this video here because it's going on to about 15 minutes, and that's as long as I can do them for. Alright, take care. Thank you for listening. Have a good day and stay safe. Goodbye.